Most people shopping for a battery compare the same things. How many kilowatt hours, whether it has an app, what happens in a blackout, what it costs. And those are all fair questions, but there's one number buried in the inverter datasheet that can completely change how well your battery performs. In winter on cloudy days, and especially if you're thinking about adding a battery to your existing solar, it's called startup voltage, and almost nobody explains it. Here's the simplest way to think about it. Your solar inverter is a bit like a petrol engine on a cold morning. It doesn't start the moment you turn the key. It needs enough energy to get going first. Startup voltage is the minimum solar voltage your inverter needs before it will wake up, start converting energy, and begin charging your battery. Below that number, the inverter sits idle. Your panels might be generating, but nothing useful is happening yet. This is what's happening on a high startup voltage system every morning in winter. The sun is technically up, your panels are doing something, but the inverter is still waiting. Lower startup voltage means the inverter wakes up earlier and keeps going later. That's it. That's the whole concept. Now, before I get into the bigger three-phase stories, and there is a big three-phase story, I want single-phase homeowners to stay with me here because this affects you too, probably more than you realize. This is what a high threshold system looks like across the day. It misses the early morning. It drops off early in the afternoon. On a cloudy day, this bar barely exists. This is what low startup voltage buys you. Same panels, same roof, same location, just a different inverter threshold, and you're capturing hours of generation that the other system simply misses. Think about these real situations: winter mornings and the sun rises low and slow, solar voltage climbs gradually, a high threshold inverter sits idle while the sun is technically up. You're wasting the first 30 to 60 minutes of generation every single morning. Cloudy days, panels rarely hit peak voltage when it's overcast. A low startup voltage system keeps charging even when conditions are rough. A high threshold system basically gives up. East-west roofs, really common in Australia. Neither side of your roof hits full voltage at the same time. If your inverter needs a lot of voltage to start, it may be stuck in the gap for hours. A system that starts at 80 volts will outperform one that starts at 150 volts on every single one of those days, and they happen hundreds of times a year. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. If you already have solar and you're thinking about adding a battery, startup voltage becomes critical, not just interesting. Most homes that installed solar before 2020 were designed around the technology of that era: older panels, shorter strings, multiple orientations, north, east, west, to maximize generation hours. String voltage is sitting in the 200 to 350 volt range. Here's the thing: modern hybrid inverters are often optimized for higher voltage strings. Their MPPT window is designed for 400 to 600 volt strings. When you put a modern hybrid onto an older, shorter string system, it might be technically compatible on paper, but operating outside its optimal range in practice. Your brand new battery system underperforms on the very mornings you bought it for. Nobody tells you this in the sales conversation. You notice it in your electricity bill 6 months later. And here's a compounding factor that almost never gets mentioned. Solar panels degrade over time. Year one is the biggest drop, typically 2 to 3%, then a smaller amount every year after that. So the panel array that was hitting 340 volts on a winter morning when it was installed in 2015 is hitting around 310 volts today. If your new hybrid needs 300 volts to start, you're fine. Just if it needs 320 volts, you've crossed a line nobody warned you about. Age of the system isn't just a warranty conversation, it's a voltage conversation. If you're on three-phase power, there's another layer to this. Here's something even a lot of installers don't fully explain. Three-phase hybrid inverters commonly have higher startup voltages than the single-phase version. It's not a flaw, it's just how the technology scales. Managing power distribution across three phases simultaneously requires more voltage to operate reliably. So if you've got an older solar system with shorter strings running at lower voltages, strings that were designed around inverters with lower startup thresholds, and you're now retrofitting a three-phase hybrid, you can end up in a gap. Your panels are generating, your inverter is waiting. On winter mornings and cloudy days, those strings may never consistently clear the threshold. An inverter that looks perfect on the spec sheet can leave you with a system that charges later, less reliably, and doesn't deliver the winter morning performance that made you want a battery in the first place. This isn't a reason not to upgrade. It's a reason to understand your existing system before you commit. And here's the part almost nobody in this industry tells you. You may not need to replace your existing solar inverter at all. When most people think battery upgrade, they think replace everything. New hybrid inverter, new battery, everything connects through one unit. That's one path. And it's the right path when your strings are modern, high voltage, or when you're starting fresh. But there's a second path, it's called AC coupling, and it's frequently overlooked. You leave your existing solar inverter exactly where it is. You add a separate battery inverter on the AC side of your system. The solar keeps running through the original inverter. The battery runs through its own. For homes with older short string systems, three-phase complexity, or solar that's still performing well, AC coupling avoids the startup voltage and MPPT mismatch problem entirely. Your old solar keeps doing its job. Your new battery does its job separately, cleanly, slightly less efficient overall, yes, but often the smarter and cheaper choice. Sometimes the best battery upgrade isn't replacing your solar system. It's understanding whether your existing system still works well and choosing the right battery architecture around it. When you're looking at an inverter data sheet or asking a salesperson, here's the number you want. Startup voltage, or sometimes labeled start voltage. This single number tells you when your inverter will wake up. 80 to 100 volts, excellent. Wakes up early, works hard in low light. 120 to 150 volts, adequate. Fine for most well-designed modern systems. 180 volts and above, this is where you start losing meaningful generation on older or shorter string setups. Most salespeople won't raise this number. Now you know to ask. Before you replace your inverter, your panels, or commit to a system design, understand how your existing solar actually behaves. That's where good battery design starts. We've got hundreds of inverter and battery combinations listed on Jousto with live installed pricing at real prices, parts and labor included. No surprises, the link's below. And if you want someone to actually look at your system and tell you honestly which path makes sense, book a free 30-minute design session. We'll give you a straight answer. Link below. I'll see you in the next one.